For this wonderful documentary. It was just very informative, inspiring. I've learned so much. I've never even heard of CeeLo. I don't know about many of you in the audience, but this is definitely a new topic for me. So one thing I like to start off with is I like to get a sense of where your inspiration came from.
The way he lived his life and the way he woke us up, you saw that in the early part of the film, and showed us a different way of being in the world that could be non-violent, and where we could not be afraid of death, where we could overcome our suffering, and where we could help each other to build a more human world. So for me, it's so wonderful that this festival, which the name of the festival is so important, the Festival of Globe, is giving us the opportunity to have the US premiere of the film here, right where I started and where many of our friends, like I think Kathy Beck there, we were both in Russia when you saw the clip. Kathy and I were there. Pepe is from Chile, where the film was made. He's sitting just up behind there, and he was involved in the 70s. And we should thank here Pancho Granella and Ana Lom, the producers from Chile, for making this wonderful film. Jorge, I think, is here somewhere. Is from Argentina from the very early times. Marcelo over here on the left. Janet. There's a beautiful woman out there called Janet in Costa Rica. So I'm sorry if I missed anybody, but.
So, there are two things that I took away from this. First, there's, this nonviolence approach that CeeLo talked a lot about. Did he mention Mahatma Gandhi or consider him one of his influences in his talks?
One of the interesting things about CeeLo's doctrine is the whole idea of reconciliation. And they try to portray that in the film with that, we call it a guided experience, the guided imagery, because there are lots of different forms of violence, and often we just think of physical violence, but psychological violence probably causes more suffering than anything else. So in that scene where the girl her father gets upset at her, and at a young age that can really last with you for a long time.
Yeah.
And so later in life she tried to reconcile with that, even though the simulation was her father was no longer alive. So she did it through a guided experience where she could meet him internally and reconcile with him. Because without doing that, really, it's difficult for you to open your future. You can get trapped there sometimes in all those memories, in the resentment of what happened to you, and you can never surpass that, and never kind of liberate yourself. And you don't necessarily need the person there to forgive you even.
Right.
You can liberate yourself in a way. And I think what CeeLo always tried to teach was, how can you liberate yourself?
So do you also think that CeeLo also was a believer that the answer always lies within each of us, and it's just a matter of getting to that deep place and tapping into it to have that realization?
Yes, I do. But often we need help, and we need someone who knows to help us, who knows the path. So, if I'm going to learn how to make a great dinner, I would love to get next to a master cook or chef who really knows how to do that.
Can be your guide.
Yeah. With your cultural cuisine, if you put the right spice, the turmeric and the saffron at the right moment, it makes all the difference. You need someone who knows how to do that.
Right.
Tanya, I loved at the end, she said CeeLo was my friend because they were very young together in the 50s. Then he was my teacher, then he was my guide, and then he was my master, because he revealed things to her that she wouldn't have found by herself. And I think that's what a true spiritual guide is able to do.
I loved the last part of this documentary. It was so powerful,
Yes.
where he was just speaking,
Yes.
and it was almost very poetic.
For the times we're in. right?
Exactly.
I mean, you couldn't have got a better clip, you know, to say, I mean, everything he said is talking about not just the political situation in the US, but all over the world.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
The director is Pablo Levine, who is very well known on Chilean national TV. He actually went to school at UC Berkeley here and also in London. But they made several attempts at this movie, and then he redid the screenplay, and I feel he made it a very emotional movie that's very moving and very experiential in many ways. So he did a fantastic job on the screenplay and the direction.
Now, you know, CeeLo's no longer with us, and you know, I feel that people are just fed up with the situation.
Yes.
Just politically, we've lost a lot of faith, I think,
Yes.
in our leaders, in our politicians, and you know, someone like CeeLo, who just had such an impact on people, and kind of taught them to think in a different way and to look deeper. Do you think there's anyone here today that exists on that level, that is kind of carrying on that message?
I think there are many people working on that level. So in spite of all the things that are happening, and I think especially amongst the young people here, that things are shifting, things are opening up, and so CeeLo never forecast a dark future for humanity. He always went with the yes rather than with the no. And if anybody wants to find out more about that, if you went to the film's website, CeeLo is spiritualpath.com. There is a list of meetings in the Bay Area that people could know about.
Okay.
So on the website there are a whole list of meeting places there.
Okay, fantastic. And what was the website again?
CeeLo is spiritualpath.com.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wonderful documentary.